Yes. Still.
All right, are we about ready?
We are live.
All right, we are ready to roll. It is 6 o'clock, Monday, September 16th, 2024. We are beginning our regular meeting agenda. First, we'd like to open it up with a call to order and roll call. The Board of Education maintains a website, www.lewispalmer.org, through which members of the public can find the live stream information and meeting records, including presentations and resources which may be reviewed and discussed during the meeting. And Vicki, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Norris.
Here.
Mr. Schwartz.
Here.
Dr. Shank. Here. Ms. Upchurch.
Here. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Ms. Schwartz, would you lead us? Sure. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we have agenda, where are we? We're at item 3, approval of agenda. And the board would like to amend the agenda. Can I get a motion to amend the agenda?
I'd like to propose a motion to amend the agenda. And the item number is
It's C3.
C3.
to move item C3 to the next Board of Directors meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Do we have questions or comments? Okay, so we'll be ready for this item at our October meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Wood, can you call the roll?
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Norris.
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Aye.
Dr. Shank.
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch.
Aye. Our next item is B1. These are always the ones that bring me excitement. I'm actually going to turn over the presentation to Amy Matejczyk to do a presentation for Ms. Shea Johnson, who won several state and regional trampoline and tumbling competitions, culminating in winning the double mini level 10 national championship in July 2024. Ms. Matejczyk?
All right. Well, thank you, President Upchurch. I am Amy Matejczyk, the Director of Communications, and I have the great honor tonight to help us celebrate and kick off our D38 Elevates Recognition program tonight. And what we will be doing is celebrating one of our student athletes. As President Upchurch led into a little bit, she is an athlete at a super high level. Shea Johnson is a junior at Lewis Palmer High School, and she has won state and regional competitions for tumbling and trampoline, but the culmination really came from this last summer when she brought home a national championship. So today we get to help celebrate her. We also have her coach, Terry DeFries, with us, and it is my honor right now to bring both of them up to the podium to share more information about Shea's great accomplishment.
Hello, thank you. I appreciate you guys recognizing one of my favorite people, Shea Johnson. Remember that name because it's one you're going to be very familiar with in the future. We're going to have a little presentation of what Shea does that is pretty awe-inspiring. So in the sport of trampoline and tumbling, it's under USA Gymnastics. We have the events of trampoline, double mini trampoline, and we'll get into some videos of that in the near future. I'm sure you're wondering what that's all about. And tumbling. She also competes in another event called synchronized trampoline, which is 2 athletes on 2 different trampolines doing the exact same routine at the exact same time. Very difficult. This is Shea competing at regional championships this year at Salt Lake. It was, right? That was excellent. That was very good. And this is a double mini trampoline. You have to do flip flips on and flip flips off, and you have to land in the red zone or it's a deduction. Everything, it seems like everything is a deduction. So they're really looking for being clean and staying right. Yes, that stuck pass. Excellent in the red zone. Good job. During her freshman year, she placed ninth at level 10 at national championships, sixth and third in synchronized trampoline at national championships, which is very good when you're considering the whole entire nation, and you just have to qualify just to get there. So it's the best of the best. But then we have last year, her sophomore year, first in double mini, and fifth on trampoline. I'm going to put a little side note there because, you know, you heard Simone Biles having the twisties and the flippies. Well, she kind of had the twisties and flippies. So considering all of that, and she still competed and she still did quite well and still came home with a national champion gold medal for double mini trampoline, was absolutely phenomenal. So this girl is not only physically strong, this is one of the most mentally strong girls that I have on the team. So, Elite Challenge. So you'll see up here, Elite Challenge is one of the Olympic qualifiers. And she placed third and second in trampoline and double mini trampoline respectively. She's a state champion over and over. I don't know, how many state championships have you won? I don't even know. That's pretty awesome when you're like, I don't even know how many times I won. Regional championships, gold medal, level 10, regional, double mini, and trampoline champion. And you can't see it super well, but in the double mini national championships, you can see her score. She didn't just squeak by, she annihilated the competition. So that was pretty awesome. There she is, Miss First Place Gold Medal winner. So Mrs. Johnson, I love the Johnson family, Devon and Mark, and another one of my up-and-comings. Emmett is also on my trampoline team, her younger brother, and so is Milo. He's coming up too. So we have an amazing family, a great family support. They are, okay, they're my favorite family. I'm just going to say, don't tell it the other family members, but I did start coaching. I started the trampoline program at Stars Gymnastics 23 years ago. I am a coach for USA Gymnastics since 2016, competing in going to numerous national clinics, coaching other coaches, going to international competitions as well. And I competed in 2 world championships myself. So having said that, I just want to commend Shea for all of her dedication and her hard work. And yeah, she is not only just a great athlete and student, she's just a really good kid. So, does anyone have any questions? Great.
I want to say congratulations. And congratulations to mom and dad too, because that's a lot of work and that's pretty impressive. I kept jumping in my seat. Going, stick it. So congratulations, good job. All right, let's get
Thank you.
pictures.
We're going to go too deep, crew.
The man in the back.
Come a little bit farther so you can do the second row behind you. Okay. I'll take that way about 6 inches. All right, make sure I can see you. If you can't see me, I can't see you. And we take lots in case people. Come on, Mom and Dad. Whole family. All right, Dr. Battery needs. Dr. Dattery, go a little bit that way so I can see your face too. Okay, great.
So fun. Congratulations again. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, B2, public comments. I believe we do not have any public comments, so we're going to forego public comment and all the readings that go along with it and go straight into board member comments. And we're just going to go down the line, and we will start with you, Mr. Brown.
No comments today, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Schwartz?
No comments, thank you.
Come on, you guys. All right, Dr. I was going to say Dr. Dattery. Dr. Schenk.
I don't have any either. I'm just really excited that the school year has gotten off to a good start and really excited about this year.
Mr. Norris.
Done here?
Well, not to be outdone, I have plenty. Actually, I'm going to try to be short, but I did want to start by saying thank you to Dr. Dattery and all of our leadership team, Dennis Coates and your team, our local law enforcement, and our teachers and our parents in our community for your swift response and due diligence in investigating all avenues and your calm approach to ensuring our students are safe in our buildings all the time, regardless. Anytime there's an emergency or a loss to our children, both near and far, I always sit on edge, and it makes me sad. No, it makes me sad and angry. It makes me sad and angry that we live in a world where teachers and children have to practice how to respond to unthinkable circumstances, like what just happened to Jordan. And as a parent and as a board member, I understand the deep breath that parents and teachers and students take every time. And so if at any time a student or a parent or a community member or a teacher hears or witnesses something of concern, please report it immediately to district admin or district building or law enforcement, but please don't engage in gossip or rumors, which only makes fear stronger and can impede a swift investigation. Just report it, just say something. And if you as a student are hurting, please talk to Safe to Tell. Please call Pikes Peak Suicide Prevention. any student that's listening, know that you are loved and you're not alone. And so if you are feeling scared or you are feeling depressed, or if you have a friend, please call Safe to Tell. And I'm going to share that number. The hotline is 877-542-7233. That's 877-542-SAFE. You can also call the Pikes Peak Suicide Hotline at 719-573-7447. And I want to say to our teachers, especially to our teachers, that we thank every one of you for your passion, your hard work, and what you demonstrate in commitment to our students each and every day. You are important to us, and I want to make sure, I think we as a board want to make sure that you feel connected and that you know how valued you are. And I've said this at several buildings that I've been to this week as I visited buildings in PCAC, that I'm going to guess with pretty strong accuracy that every one of us in this room can remember our teacher or an educator that made an impact in our life and made a difference in our journey. But we can't remember an exact algebra lesson or when we learned to spell definitely, which I still definitely struggle with, but we can remember the teacher that taught us. And so you teachers, you make a difference, and we want to make sure that you feel connected also. At the end of the day, when we as a board are talking about test scores and we're talking about enrollment, what's important is that those students that are in your classrooms and that you do what you do for our kids. And so we want to say, I want to, on behalf of the board, say thank you to our educators also. And thank you for partnering with our parents. And I'm also excited, speaking of our students, that we will be bringing back our student representatives for our board meetings starting in October, if that's correct. And so I'm super excited to see our students come back and participate in our governance process. And along with celebrating our students and our community members, as I've shared with many of our district buildings, we've been to all but 2 so far, and I wanted to share that we are excited that the district is currently working on our new learning opportunity, which is our Career and Innovation Center. And I'm sad we don't get to vote on that tonight, but I'm looking forward to October. And this facility is slated, as most folks know, in case you didn't know though, 25-26 school year, we're going to do it. And we're going to provide relevant work-based learning opportunities for students and hands-on experience that will transcend a traditional classroom. And this project aligns with our strategic plan of academic excellence, and by expanding the district's scope of support for students to be future ready. And the entire board, we're all excited to watch the new facility and how it transforms for our students and what will happen for our students. So I just wanted to say we're excited about that. And then finally, and I also want to remind everybody that we engaged in committee work and surveys, and we had experts come in, and the skilled trades and information technology will be part of it. Engineering, healthcare, advanced manufacturing are some of the programs that are going to be in the building. So we're excited to see how that evolves. We will hopefully be the first of its kind in the Pikes Peak region and provide another reason for families to choose Lewis Palmer School District 38. And then finally, to my fellow board members, as you saw in your board docs, there are current CASB resolutions that will be voted on at our upcoming CASB Delegate Assembly on October 19th. And these resolutions are what helps guide the current CASB platforms and lobbying efforts. And so I encourage you to look at the platforms and the resolutions. It's a short resolution list this year. There's only 9. And I'm proud that D38 has been a pivotal part of that platform and that lobbying effort, from recent legislation to really pushing back and making sure the budget stabilization factor doesn't come back, local control, and stop the unfunded mandates. Those are some of the platforms that CASB has this year. And so that's part of the work that we've been doing. So I'm proud to be a part of that and proud of us as a district for pushing and advocating for our students and our community. And I believe that's all. Oh, I'll be attending the CASB Board of Directors event. Well, our regional meeting for Board of Directors is this Saturday, so I will be reporting our work session. If you have any thoughts or feedback or questions on the resolutions, look them over and we can discuss it at the next work session. And I think that's it. I think I've talked a little bit. So, Dr. Dattery.
Thank you, President Upchurch. Very good. And while Ms. Wood is calling up my superintendent's update for you this evening. Thank you. So just a few things to share with you about the past month. First, as you know, on August 30th, we gathered all of our employees to kick off the Professional Development Day. It was a wonderful event, and the theme of our day was Raising the Bar, Elevating Excellence. We rolled out the red carpet for our staff members, enjoyed a morning complete with breakfast, giveaways, and special messages, both from our Education Association president and you, Ms. Tiffany Upchurch, our Board of Education president. I also had the opportunity to share remarks and took some time to remind our staff to stay connected to our why. And our most special speakers for that morning were our students. We welcomed 8 students from our elementary and our middle schools to share their hopes for the new year and words of gratitude for some of their teachers. It was really special. It was a great morning. And along with thanking our students who participated on the panel, a big thank you goes out to our band, our cheer, and our POMS teams. They did a great job from our Lewis Palmer High School as well as Palmer Ridge High School, and they were all on hand to help create a very festive atmosphere. So it was a really great way to start that morning and to really kick off our school year in good measure. So here are a few other highlights. There's lots to share from around the district that's happened in the past month. Some of you might have been at our hometown showdown, and that returned to us on September 13th, just this last Friday, when our Palmer Ridge Bears took on our Lewis Palmer Rangers for a contest on the football field. It was really a great night, beautiful night, and although Palmer Ridge won, both teams truly enjoyed the friendly competition and camaraderie. They're just truly great kids. The evening also included a fundraiser for Folds of Honor, which is a nonprofit organization that raises money to provide scholarships to spouses and children of America's fallen or disabled military and for families of first responders. So it was really a great night. And then our middle school football teams also had the chance to experience games at the next level on our very own Breeze Stadium. The tradition of our middle school athletes playing on our high school fields dates back many years, and it provides them with a taste of the high school experience. Best of all, the occasion was a bit more special as both our 7th and our 8th grade teams left with a win. So that was special, yeah. Our theater students did a beautiful job at Lewis Palmer High School, and they kicked off their season on September 4th with a performance of a timeless comedy, which is called The Importance of Being Earnest. Cast members shared that they were proud of their professionalism and hard work with the production, and community members on our D38 social media shared comments that they agreed it was a great start to the theatrical season. I was also honored to be a part of the grand opening of the latest phases of Trinity Community Park. For those who may not know, the park is the first ADA-compliant playground in the area that features state-of-the-art equipment, including wheelchair-accessible merry-go-round, that was cool, a Unity teeter-totter, and then a wheelchair trampoline. That was really great to see. Not something you see in every playground. So very, very neat. It's just great that we have a welcome environment right here in D38 where everyone with all abilities can play together. So with those events behind us, there are a few events on our upcoming calendar I want to make you aware of. And the first is our favorite community fundraiser, which returns on October 3rd. Mark your calendars. And our Lewis Palmer School District leaders and Board of Education members will be there to support it. The Kiwanis Club Empty Bowls Dinner and Silent Auction is back to raise money for Tri-Lakes Cares. For just $25, attendees can enjoy a dinner with soup, bread, drink, and dessert, in addition to leaving with a handmade bowl donated by a local artist. Pretty cool. So we look forward to seeing many of our community there. Next, I have one important update to share in this month's superintendent update. And I'm going to take a drink. All right, so despite their best efforts, I just want to share with you that World Compass Academy has decided to withdraw their charter application. They did not manage to fulfill the required enrollment numbers to proceed confidently with what they wanted to accomplish. So while the outcome isn't what they had hoped for, they were grateful for the resources and support that D38 staff extended during the entire process. And I do want to thank our staff, with Amber Wetstein and her team really leading a great process through all of that. And last, I would like to wrap up by celebrating just a few students and alumni. So to start, 2 former athletes from Lewis Palmer High School have hit it big. About a week ago, Billy Cook, you might remember him, made his debut playing Major League Baseball for the Pittsburgh Pirates. How very cool is that? And also Matthew Ragsdale is taking his ball handling skills overseas to play for a professional team in Germany. And finally, I conclude by announcing that 4 seniors in District 38 have been named National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. So first, congratulations goes to Kai Jones and Jathan McEachron from Lewis Palmer High School, Connick Goodwin from Palmer Ridge High School, and Charlotte Weitzel from Monument Academy. Just put it in context, guys, more than 1.3 million juniors across the country entered the scholarship program, and the pool of semifinalists represents less than 1%. I know, it's pretty awesome, of all high school seniors. So these students will go through the program's extensive application process, and we hope they'll all be named finalists next spring to have the chance to compete for $26 million in scholarships. So as you've already mentioned, many of you, we're off to a great start in the 24-25 school year, and I just can't wait to see what the rest of this semester will bring. Thanks for letting me share a little bit about the highlights over the past month.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Dattery.
Thank you.
Board, do you have any questions for Dr. Dattery before we move on? No? Okay.
Right.
Then we are off to our next board agenda items, our C items for board discussion and action items. First is C1, District and School Performance Frameworks and Accreditations of Schools. And we would like to invite Dr. Dattery and I believe Ms. Amber Wetstein. You'll be discussing that. Okay.
Ms. Wetstein is going to pull up a presentation that she has prepared for you for this evening, and we'll share a little more information and how our schools in our district have done. Thank you, Ms. Wetstein.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. This is our annual presentation on the accreditation of schools. So a reminder for those that are newer with this process, in Colorado, school districts are accredited by the State Board of Education, and each district receives what's called a district performance framework, which I will summarize for you this evening. Within that framework, we are scored on our student academic performance, our student academic growth, and then our post-secondary workforce readiness, which includes our matriculation rates, or what students are doing after they graduate from high school, our dropout rates, and our graduation rates. And then each local board accredits its own schools. And so tonight we'll ask you to accredit all of our schools, both our operated schools and our charter schools as well. And I know you've heard this fantastic news, but I will say again for the public record that we are honored to be recognized as accredited with distinction. We are one of only a few districts who has held this honor since the inception of our current accountability system. This year we were one of 17 school districts or entities to be honored with this distinction, which is 9% of districts. I will also mention another celebration. All of our District 38 schools were assigned a performance rating this year, which is the highest rating that schools can receive. If you remember last year, we did have a few schools on an improvement status, and that was partly due to our participation rates and some due to achievement. And we have made significant improvements across the board, so we're very excited about that. Okay, I'd like to spend a little bit of time summarizing the district performance framework, and you have copies of all of the school performance frameworks in board docs for your review. This, I will start by saying, is a very complex set of documents. And so I'm going to provide a high-level overview. We did also provide you within your board bulletin that Dr. Dattery shared with you last week some more detailed explanation of how specifically the Colorado growth model works and how those formulas are calculated. I'll do my best to answer specific questions you have regarding this data this evening. But do know it's quite a complex formula that Colorado has. So as you see here, you do need 74% of the 100 points possible to be a district accredited with distinction. While we're very excited about this honor, I do want to note that we are seeing a decline with the number of points that we've received for the past 3 years, and so intentionally to reverse that trend moving forward. You'll hear more about that when we present the district and school unified improvement plans in October. Okay, so the frameworks are broken down into the categories that I mentioned. There's achievement, there is growth, and then there is post-secondary workforce readiness. Some things I'll point out, you'll notice the column that is labeled student count. That's the number of students who took the assessment for elementary, middle, and high school levels that are counted in this data. And then you'll see the participation rate of students that participated in each assessment. The mean scale score is just what they use to calculate the percentile rank. So I advise you to focus more on the percentile rank itself, because that is how our schools, our district, compares to all other schools across Colorado. In this example, we're looking at elementary school achievement. You can see that for the English language arts assessment, that was taken in our elementary schools, so that does include 6th grade for our operated schools, but not for Monument Academy because they are included in their middle school scores. We are performing at the 88th percentile. And then you can see for math, the 84th percentile. The way our accountability system works in Colorado for achievement is that students are compared to all other students for achievement. So when we're looking at our individual subgroups, so students who are qualifying for free and reduced lunch priced meals, as an example, those students are compared to all students in Colorado, not just those students in their similar group. So as you're looking at students with disabilities, these students are not only compared to other students with disabilities, but the general population of students. This was the first year that science was included in these frameworks for quite some time. And you can see we also did very well, not quite as well as we did in English language arts and math, but still very, very well at the 76th percentile. Okay, and again, this is elementary results. And then I'm moving on now to academic growth. And this is calculated somewhat differently. So when we're looking at how students are growing, we want them to grow at a similar rate to their like scoring peers. So different from achievement, students are compared to students who scored similarly to them on past tests. So still not according to their subgroups that you see here, free and reduced lunch, minority students, etc. However, students who typically scored at very high levels would be compared to the growth that their similarly high performing peers would grow. We are looking for a median growth percentile of 50, which would be right in the middle of that bell curve, or to simplify it, it'd be approximately a year's growth in a year's time. And so you can see we are doing very well in growing our students in English language arts, and also very well in math. However, we are not yet hitting that median growth percentile of 50, and this is something you're going to hear us really be focusing on as we're doing our school improvement planning for the next year. Okay, and then you'll see similar reports in your packet for middle school and high school. So middle school results are set up very much the same way. You'll be able to note the participation rates, how our middle school students performed at what percentile rank, and by group, and then growth. And you'll notice that we are seeing lower growth scores at our middle school level. And this does, again, include 7th and 8th grade at Lewis Palmer Middle School, and then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Monument Academy. And high school. In high school, academic achievement is comprised of the PSAT and the CMAS science test. You can see we are at least the 85th percentile across the board in all subjects. And then also did very well in growing our students at the high school level as well. At the high school level, we also have included post-secondary workforce readiness measures. And this is where we see our SAT results that our 11th graders take. And we do exceptionally well on our performance with the SAT and have exceptionally high scores for our dropout and graduation rates, exceptionally good scores, I should say. And matriculation, we've spent some time on in the past. This is the state's calculation for matriculation, and it is an imperfect number. An imperfect data is what we learn when we have conversations with the state, asking them to share with us how these scores are calculated, because not all colleges and universities are included in this data, but it is the majority of colleges and universities across the country that are included. So you can see the percentage of students for 2-year and 4-year universities or post-secondary workforce post-secondary institutions. These would be the percentage of students who entered into one of those programs the year immediately after graduation. So when you're looking at the 13.7% there for 2-year, 52.2% entering into a 4-year college system. CTE has to do with the students who are earning workforce certificates during high school. And then the military enlistment is something that districts self-report. As we've talked about this data, we've also talked about using and calculating our own local data to help us track matriculation. This was a graphic that Ms. Jess McAllister created and we discussed last school year, and we've updated it with our 2024 results. I did include the 2023 results in the presentation for comparison, but you can see on the left side of the slide are the state data that I just reviewed with you, and then on the right side are our local data, which include all of the state metrics plus the purple on top, which is all students already enrolled in college programs. So we have a significant amount of students who are participating in college level coursework while they're in high school, and that is not included in the state's data. So as we move forward with our strategic plan, you're going to hear us talking about our local matriculation results versus the state matriculation results, because we believe if students are taking college courses in high school successfully, that should count, so to speak, for showing that they are prepared for the next step after high school. We also know that many of our students choose to take a gap year or do mission work the year after high school, and those students would also not count in the state's data. Okay, so that's a very high level presentation of this information. Again, I included some additional information which Dr. Dattery shared with you last week, but I'm happy to answer questions that you may have now.
Team?
I've got a couple. First of all, thank you. Congratulations to the team for being credited with distinction yet again. I don't know too many places that have done it all century long, so way to go. Secondly, it's a change from our previous rating, and I'm curious, have we looked at just a simplistic macro view of our ratings over the last 5 years to see if this is an anomaly or a trend? What have we found?
When you say a change in our rating, you're referring to the decline in points here that we're seeing over time.
Right. Which slide number are you on?
This is slide 5.
5. Yep. Right. So I'm just curious if we went back to 2019 through 2024, are we hovering within a couple percent of 74.5, or were we at 80? Or
We can pull that information. We had 2 years prior to this without any of these reports due to COVID. So since COVID, we are seeing this slight decline. What I do want to point out is, let me go to slide. This is slide 7. This is elementary growth. And you can see here that I mentioned that we want to be at a median growth percentile of 50 to be meeting state expectations. As an example here, you can see that we're at a 49.5 in math, and we're close to making growth with some of our student groups as well. When I move to the middle school growth indicator, we've got a little more catching up to do. So we are, to answer part of your question, we are really honing in on that trend data, not just at the district level, but by school. And we are identifying bright spots and looking to learn from schools who are really making exceptional growth. We are weighted heavier in the growth category than we are in the achievement category for these reports. So absolutely, we are doing a deep dive into how to really focus on the root causes of some of this trend data, and we'll be bringing that forward into our action plans at the October meeting.
Thank you. Couple other thought questions. I attempted to go through all this again this morning. I know we went through a working session. It is massive in terms of quantity. So it always gets the question, where's the quality inside the quantity that we can act upon? So the first thing I was scratching my head about was, do the professionals, which is the team here, find this a leading, a trailing, or a current indicator?
I mean, these are state summative assessment results is what we consider them. And so we would say trailing. And we have many other measures that we use to look at what those leading indicators are to be looking at how students are learning and growing throughout the school year.
So based on that fact, do the leading indicators match trailing indicators?
When we dig in and knowing that every school, so we have our operated schools plus Monument Academy schools that are part of this data. It is very detailed work. And so I would say sometimes. We have different assessments that we give from kindergarten all the way up through high school, and including student work. We look at overall trends in student grades, attendance rates, all of those kinds of things as indicators of what our performance might be on these summative assessments at the end of the school year.
So I would argue this is one of the hardest things the district has to do because of the even for a relatively small district, because of the vastness of the different categories and then microcosms of 40 students in this category and 36 students in that category and 90 students in the other category. And those all, when you only have 350 kids in a category, is plenty to move a needle.
There's a lot of variables.
Right. And so with full respect for that, the other question I had is how do we know where to place our bets?
Say more.
You can't do it all. We can't do it all, right? Everybody wants to be all things to all people all the time, every day. But it's actually not a physical possibility. So at some juncture, we have to place some bets, right? And there's so much here. I was just scratching my head trying to figure out how do I know where to place a bet.
So the work that our schools and our teams are engaged in right now is a root cause analysis, and not just root cause of, well, why may we not be performing at a specific level that we want to be, but what are we doing that's leading us to perform well so that we can continue to do those things, and what areas do we want to improve and what might be hindering that achievement currently. And so that's the work that folks are engaged in currently that will then lead to the action plans that will bring you in October.
Would it be okay, and I need the board's concurrence on this, when the staff is ready to show us some 5 or 7 or 10-year data on the performance metric, if you also included what the discoveries were and if there's something conclusive even better in terms of root cause? And what's, in case, I mean, Tiffany's the only one that was here 5-6 years ago, but in the spirit of attempting to be rational, we had a literacy problem then, and the root cause analysis was this, and it was a national problem. And the obvious piece is this is making us lazy, and it's making our kids lazy, and it's making our kids' parents and everybody in the society lazy. And so the scores weren't plummeting, but there were enough leading indicators for us to throw up a flag and say, we need to invest, and we need to invest now, because it's an 18-month window to get back. And you as a team did a stellar job of professional work and fixed the problem on an ongoing basis. And so I don't know that there's that kind of a problem in here, but that's what's fueling my thought process here, and I hope that's okay, to see if we can get ahead of something. Conversely, and here's the real hard part, because we're asking you to change the tires on the car while it's moving, right? Is don't stop the good stuff.
Right.
Right. And therein lies the art of any business or entity. And so leading indicators help us with that, because we try to catch the weeds before they get too high, right?
I'd say that's, just to reiterate a little bit, and I appreciate what you're sharing and thinking, processing out loud. Really, through that root cause analysis, they're doing just that, so that you don't misinterpret the data and swing too far one direction and not continue to build on the things that are actually getting not only good growth, but academic achievement. And so I want to be clear, we've always been at this category. It's my understanding. We will look at the trend pre-COVID, to your point, and then we had a couple of years where there were no school or district performance frameworks. And now in the last 3 years, we're just seeing this slight decline. And to know that we are focusing on the primary work is of math and literacy. This year was the first year, too, that science was reintroduced since all the changes were made at the state level with the standards and then assessment. So science is the first time that that's been reintroduced as well. So we certainly look at that data with the emphasis being in math and literacy. And primarily what we've noticed is that there's some more work to be done in the area of math. I think we talked about that a little bit when we brought to you the assessment results. The team is really working with principal leadership and building leadership coaches to really kind of what's sitting underneath that. Is it curricular? Is it professional development? Is it time? I mean, there's like, to your point, there's a lot of different variables. So when we bring back with the work around the unified improvement planning, we can really maybe dive a little bit more deeply that our work is really, they're kind of in the middle of it right now of doing that root cause analysis and working with the team so that we really are understanding the data and not doing knee-jerk reaction to this.
I would argue, and board members, please correct me if I'm wrong, or professionals, we have the luxury of doing this while things are good.
Yeah, we
Not
have.
everybody's in this position, so
Right.
let's please consider what a wonderful luxury we're in and take advantage of it. And secondly, I had one other question. With full respect for the different pedagogy between the operating schools and Monument Academy, I noticed just on the colors, on the far right ratings, there were some areas where the operating schools seemed to have excelled and some areas where the academy schools seem to have excelled. And I'm curious if there's some interchange happening so we can further our partnerships.
Yes, actually, the leadership team at Monument Academy attends our district data reviews, and we have frequent conversations with their team to support them and to share practices across schools.
Go for it. Ms. Schenk.
So I've been reading just some brief research, and two things came up for me that I wondered if we have any issues with here. One is attendance seems to be a huge problem around the United States. Is that an issue for us?
I don't know the daily attendance right off the top of my head. We could definitely pull that for you. We tend to not have the same types of attendance problems that many districts face. Sometimes our students take trips to many places around the world and miss some school, which we want to honor as learning experiences. And when we do have students who have truancy, we would call it, from school, our principals work really closely with the families to help correct that.
That's what I
So it's
figured.
not what you might see in many districts around the country.
And another thing I was reading about, especially with math, is the handoffs between elementary, middle, and high school not being really very close. So scope and sequence not going from elementary into middle, directly into middle, directly into high school. And I was wondering if we...
Yeah, it's something we're looking at as part of the root cause analysis. Could that be contributing? You know, we do have different curriculum from elementary to middle to high school. And so it's definitely something that
Great.
we're looking at.
Thanks.
Our attendance, too, just so that you know, sits between 94 and 95% when we look at that. So to all of what you're saying, we would like to increase that, certainly, and that does contribute some. But it is a different reason as to why students might not be attending regularly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We also have fantastic athletes like Shea, you know, who compete and keep up on their schoolwork in the meantime. So, yeah.
Board, any other comments, questions?
Great results, thank you.
Yeah, I want to point out, in case it wasn't, or reiterate, I guess is the better word, reiterate that our achievement scores are still very high. So is that why our growth scores are weighted heavier? Why is that?
It's just our state accountability system weights growth more.
Okay.
And if we have students growing, then achievement always follows. And I want to point out that our growth is also very good in many areas. And there's some areas that we want to hone in on.
And to your point, Ron, at the Parent Community Advisory Committee, they're honing in on asking those very same questions you are of what could be cause and effect and where can we improve as each building's working on their improvement plans as well. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing if we come about with anything with that.
Yeah.
I have a different question though, as it applies to at the bottom of your presentation, on our graduation rates and our matriculation rates. And I'm asking a question on, does students that come into our school district, we're near military installations, students that transfer into our school districts from different states, and Colorado's academic standards can sometimes affect students that come here. Do we see that in our school district as being an issue? Or changing our scores?
We accept all students into our system. Students who transfer in, if they are in our system as of the October count, then they are included in this accountability data. But no, we have not talked about that being an impact positively or negatively at this point.
And I'll give you where this question comes from. There's a resolution for the CASB delegates to consider on the state changing the GED graduation rate calculation so that it includes students who successfully complete their GED before the expiration of their 4-year high school term. And the rationale was that school districts that see students coming in from different states where Colorado's graduation standards are higher than their states, they're finding that some of their students moving into their districts are struggling to graduate on time because they're lacking in credits that they don't have coming in. So I didn't know if that was something we deal with or not.
That's not something that's typical for us. We do abide by, there's a military compact that ensures that students are not penalized for military transfers. And so we abide very closely to that and work with individual students and their families to ensure that they're able to graduate.
Gotcha. Yeah, and this was more like students who are not going to be able to catch up. They go the GED path instead because they just can't catch up to the Colorado standards.
It's not something that's typical.
All right.
Not for us here
Okay.
at this time.
Good to know. Any other questions for Amber? No. Okay. Well,
All right.
anything else that we need to go over?
No, just I would ask that you accredit all of our schools that as we've requested this evening.
Okay, so our next step is that I would entertain a motion to accredit all district-operated and charter schools.
I'd like to make a motion to accredit all district-operated and charter schools as recommended by the Lewis Palmer District 38 administration.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to accredit all district-operated and charter schools as recommended by the Lewis Palmer School District 38 administration. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Wood?
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Norris?
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz?
Aye.
Dr. Shank?
Aye.
Ms. Upchurch?
Aye. Should beat you to it there, Chris.
Sleeping.
Okay, our next item, thank you so much, Amber, and thank you, team, for putting that information together for us. C2, consider approve policy revisions JICDE, bullying prevention and education. This is our second reading. I would entertain a motion to approve the revision that's presented.
Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revisions to policy JICDE, bullying prevention and education as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the revisions to policy JICDE, bullying prevention and education as presented. Is there any discussion? Anything we need to know in addition, Dr. Dettery?
I don't think really anything in addition. There was a good conversation when it was presented for its first read around making sure that we had some systems in place, some training, and all of that as I have gone back and worked with the team. And Mr. Frampton, specifically, who could not be with us this evening, really does work with all of our primarily assistant principals and deans who regularly work inside of the parameters of what this policy is laid out and designed to support our processes and our systems within the district around bully prevention and education. So doing things like restorative classroom, capturing kids' hearts, those kinds of programs that we currently have all meet within the letter of what the changes outlined within this policy. So I have a great deal of confidence that while these are new to us, the district has been working inside of these parameters for a few years now, and certainly going forward that these will be good changes for us to make and good policy for us to follow.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay. Ms. Wood?
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz, Dr. Shank,
Aye.
Ms. Church.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
moving along to C4, which is now C3, financial planning and analysis. We'd like to invite Mr. Brett Ridgway. How are you this evening, sir?
Fantastic.
All right, I'm sure Ron's got great questions for you.
What about the inverted yield curve again?
It's less inverted.
Went too far down.
Okay, please, sir.
Okay, September is actually a month that's pretty quiet from a financial presentation perspective. Some years I don't even do a presentation in September because we're not far enough into the new year to really have any data that matters, and we're past the prior year, which I already talked a little bit about last month. I am just going to refer back to a little bit of last year data as well, though, for tonight. Since we did have our audit field work that just happened this past week, and as you come up to and get ready for audit work, there's always a few year-end adjustments that come into play. And if you recall,
Which document are you in, please?
I am in the main trial balance report,
Assume that's the first one.
the first document.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go to the graphical slides. That is page 12 of that. This is the slide that we spend the most time on throughout the year. And when I talked about this last month, I was referring in particular to the measurement of a budget in terms of revenue and expense, and to see if we were in that window of precise performance that I like to aim for and I like to talk about, which is being 98 to 100% of the budget target. And so last month, if you recall, I said we were within that window for revenue, and we were slightly below that window for expenses, but our final audit prep actually increased our expense measurements in the general fund, and so we got into that measurement for the general fund expenses as well. So both targets of revenue expenses for the total district operated schools for the general fund operating within that window of precise performance between 98 and 100%.
Way to go.
Thank you. And what I want to let me take you to another couple pages then that I want to draw your attention to. And let's see. If I go here and actually go up a couple of slides, so I'm going to be on page 31. It looks like, and this takes that variance, that report of the general fund information, and starts to break it down by school and by department. Okay, so again, on page 31 of this report, and so looking at what is the budget and the actual result for each of those particular subsets of the district. And so we had a good consistent positive performance in terms of expense variance for each of the schools. And what this is going to be important for is how we go into the amended budget season. You remember this, the original budget that we adopt always assumes a balanced budget of revenue and expenses, not trying to wonder yet what is our prior year going to finish at. And when we have a year like this where our prior year finishes a little bit better, then we're going to be able to take that $300,000 in this case for schools, for total school location, and add that to their budget for the current year, what we call carryover. So on a individual school level, there'll be a few dollars that get added to their 24-25 budget, specifically related to how they performed in that prior year, 23-24. Does that make sense? Okay. And so that's just one of the adjustments we make when it comes to amended budget timeline, but it's an important one that we want to take note of. Of course, the support locations have some budget variances as well. And then we'd also have a little bit of revenue adjustment because, again, we only finished 99.7% on revenue. So that means we were $100,000, $160,000 off on a $52 million budget. But nevertheless, when we want to carry forward precisely, that's something I'm going to mathematically bring into the equation. Then the next page behind that, on page 32, looks at that variance by school, for instance, and breaks it down into these three, I think, particular categories that we'd want to make note of. I mean, we're going to manage each of these three categories differently and separately. So, for instance, if we just go back and look at Lewis Palmer Elementary on the top there, since Yvonne's here, her $32,000 variance was split into three pieces, is about staff regular pay, the support services and other, and then what happened with the utilities budget, right? And so each of these get used differently and more specifically, and frankly, the principal has more opportunity to impact this support services and other on a more immediate basis, I should say, than the other two categories. The other two categories matter, but it's not as easy to work those and change those. So you'll see some back and forth on some of those throughout. But it's really, traditionally it's been this support services and other that schools have been focused on, but I am wanting them to understand, be aware of, and then also take credit for how their staff compensation profile changes or is affected according to budget.
Was there anything telling here?
There's nothing real telling there. Only that, again, that each of those categories have positive results. And so, again, as I was saying earlier, that's what the principals have the most opportunity to impact directly, kind of on a month-to-month basis. And so, I probably will want, as we move forward and we get better in budget management, these are some numbers I'm going to want to work with them to make sure that they come down even tighter. Right, because in general, I don't think we want to be carrying over $50,000, $20,000 from year to year of general fund money in particular. Right, we want to make sure that we're using that to educate the students in the year that we receive that funds and that those students are present. Okay, any other questions on the financial results from 23-24? Again, that carryover is a key part to the budget. The other thing, as we go into amended budget season, is going to be enrollment. So how is enrollment for 24-25 now happening? And we have a couple of slides, different reports that I put in. And one is this district enrollment report, which has been in our reporting for quite a while, and it has some good data points in it, but there lacks context to it. There's no real way to kind of interpret this to say, is this a good result or a bad result? You can go down to that far right corner and say minus 41, and you might jump to the wrong conclusion to say, oh, that's bad. We're in trouble. And so I included another one, which is I call district enrollment context, which takes that same report, adds a lot of numbers in smaller fonts right next to it. But there's purpose for it, and then starts to compare it to the budget in particular. And what I'm finding we need to do these last couple years especially is and we're kind of doing it already with the way Jim is presenting this enrollment, but really we need to segregate off the UPK program and really focus on the K-12 program. Before when we were talking about P-12, as a whole bunch, as a whole group, but really focusing on the K-12 specifically. And so if you look at the K-12 numbers right here, and this does include Monument Academy, by the way. So as a total district, as a total K-12 district, we were looking for 6359 in this year's budget, and we are sitting 8 students different from that. So that means that we were planning for some of this lower student count, and that has come to fruition pretty closely as we planned. So 8 students is obviously very tight, but if you go up that column, you can see some numbers that vary across that. So there is some oscillation in terms of that variance if you start to break it down into individual schools and programs that we will be aware of as we're going into the amended budget season as well, particularly when you look at what is happening with the homeschool programs. Because if you recall, homeschool, we only get funded at a 0.5 versus the full-time funding for regular in-school programs. And so what we see here in this -8 is a positive 13. I know you can't see the headers because they're over there on the left, the row headings, but we're plus 13 in the operated homeschool, and we're plus 30 in the MA homeschool because that's a new program for them this year. So there wasn't really a budget for it. They just need to see how it played out. And so that says that there's a little bit of a mix variance issue in there as well. And so mainly I just want to tell you that there are layers to this. And as we go into the amended budget conversations that we'll have throughout October through January, we'll identify those and calculate the impact of each of those more as we go. But as a quick cut to the chase here, what I'm projecting for the total district on the right side here is $170,000, a rate variance, a revenue variance, I should say, not rate variance, revenue volume variance. 10,000 of that for MA and 150,000 of that for the operated schools. Again, that's really, really nice, really tight. So there's no amended budget surprises coming on a total district basis. But again, there may be some work we want to do more beneath the surface, in school by school, program by program perspectives.
That's 2 1,000ths%. Actually, 2.8 if you round it.
2.8 1,000ths%. Okay, yeah, we're fortunate to have that. To be precise on that, there are other questions, of course, that we can ask about that, about the fact that it is actually a declining enrollment as in total. Those are questions that we need to ask and consider. But at least we are being accurate and precise as much as we can be with that budget projection.
Quick question on the UPK thing.
Yeah.
Was the rationale to pull that out because it's independently funded?
Yes.
Okay.
It's independently funded. That it doesn't even fall under the Department of Education anymore, right? We track the results basically within our financial results, and our staff are running that, but it's really so independently governed
It's
now.
its own P&L essentially.
It is. It's in its own fund. Even it's not part of the general fund, Fund 10. It's part of Fund 19. So that's kind of why I wanted to head in that direction.
PPR and everything is different.
Yeah, they're not part of the PPR calculation anymore. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Do you have any questions? No? So when I look at this, I see that Bear Creek is still the school that is seeing the largest pressure from homes being built.
Right, so Bear Creek is this top line through here, and so you're right, we're 36 students above budget, and that budget already included growth for this year. So that's something that I know Mr. Potter is keenly aware of. And as are many of the students and families that are there, and so that's something that definitely has our attention. We're within that range of what we can do, but it's kind of right up against the top of that. So certainly as we look towards the future, we have to think about about different ideas, different scenarios about, what are we going to do to manage that, especially when you look at it relative to the sizes of other elementary schools in particular. Bear Creek is about twice the size of any of the other schools. So
when you look when you're looking at the future counts, and I understand it is as much of a science and art combined, when you look at the growth or decline in cohorts as they go through grades, do we see any trends there that affects how these students are funded or how we allocate?
well, because we haven't in the past been on a student-based budgeting model, we don't have as much tie to that. But I think we're doing ourselves some disservice with that. I mean, we're making things easy, but we're not necessarily doing the best that we can do to recognize that pressure point of 36 additional students above budget, which already had 80 students growth from last year. So while we had increased some funding in the budget for it, are we at a point right now where if we were at a real student-based budgeting model where we'd say, hey, 36 students is going to generate X number of funds additional to Bear Creek? We can't do that if we're 8 students down as a district as a whole without making a counter adjustment at another school. And so we have to get to that point where we have that flexibility and some of that agility to make adjustments within the program, within the portfolio, to match that reality.
So that might be a further discussion to talk about.
Well, definitely, that's the part of the whole philosophical discussion of going towards a student-based budgeting program, and why would we want to do that, and what are the opportunities, and what are the things to be careful with.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything else? Anything else you think we should know right now?
No,
We're good shape.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah. The audit field work happened last week, and that went well. And
Good.
so we'll be bringing that audit report back to you here in a couple months.
Perfect. That was about going to be my next question, is when can we expect to see that report? Well, thank you. If there are no further questions, and I appreciate it. I know it's a lot of data, but it actually helps me to understand it personally. That's just me. But all the numbers you show, I'm able to follow a lot better than I could have years back. So I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome.
Dr. Schenk is in agreement almost there, getting. All right. Thank you so much, Brett. Okay. And with that, it is 7:16, and we are at C6, approval of consent agenda.
Skip 5.
What?
C5.
C5. Oh, well, I was just trying to. Okay, I guess. Thank you. C5, consider approve revisions to the 2024-2025 Board of Education meeting dates. Do we want to do a motion before we discuss, or do you want to discuss before we do a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised schedule of Board of Education meeting dates for school year 2024-2025 as presented.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second to approve the revised schedule of Board of Education meeting dates for the school year 2024-2025. Any discussion? Does this work for everyone? Have you noticed some of the things that have changed, Dr. Datter? Can you share that with us?
I absolutely can. So the significant change on here is that we are proposing that we move what was our November 5th work session date to a November 12th work session, but actually make it an all-day retreat is what we had discussed. So we would we actually would have an 8 to about 3 o'clock time frame, and then we have a school visit after that at the end of that day. So we would end at a school. So that is the main change on this. The other discussion would be that on October 1st and on February 4th, if you wanted to possibly start that work session, those again are both work sessions. We have school visits at 2 of our high schools that end at 8:10. We could conceive of coming back and starting a work session at 8:30, but that would just be a time frame proposal, a change. What is really an active change in terms of a date change would be the November 5th to the November 12th. All-day retreat.
So for discussion purposes, I'll kick it off. The calendar as presented works personally for me.
Okay.
I personally like keeping it at 9 because it allows for if there's a traffic issue or if Ron needs to stop and get some coffee for the entire board, then that allows him an opportunity to do
Second.
that. No, so but I wanted to open that up for discussion before we actually vote.
Okay.
Is there any thoughts, pros, cons, feelings? Just want to vote on it, keep it as is? What?
I like it.
All right.
Works for me.
Okay, then let's do the roll call.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz,
Aye.
Dr. Schenk,
Aye.
Miss Upchurch.
Aye. And we are keeping the work sessions at 9 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, now we are moving on to C6. I'm always trying to get ahead of one step. I'm always trying to. It's my ADD, I think. Okay. Consent agenda.
Ms. Upchurch, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Okay. There's a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and seconded. Is there any discussion on any consent agenda items or on the motion? Seeing none.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Norris,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz, Dr. Schenk,
Aye.
Miss Upchurch.
Aye. Chris, we're going to make you a radio host after this is all done.
I've heard that before.
E1, future meetings. Okay, so we have right now our October 1st work meeting. We have a facilities update, capacity study, capital needs, policy review, protocol. Do we need to put Jable on that or no? Will we be ready for the Nope, okay. And then October 21st is our regular meeting, and we will have our high school students here. And tentative literacy presentation, grant and assessment results, our CTE update, and hopefully vote, our MA annual report, and our UIP approval. Is there anything else that we need to stick on there?
And that's where we would put the J-Bowl.
Yes, with the CTE update, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We can combine it with that, yes.
And team, this is an opportunity if there's anything you would like to see on a future agenda, whether it's October or beyond, speak now or talk to Dr. Dattery. We will be getting, do we have a tentative when we will have some updates on our property updates and our, what's the word I'm looking for?
Do you want to schedule for the CT facility?
Well, that, yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the plan
The
for
capital improvements
So
and
for the capital improvements, yes,
Yes.
that should be. We are planning on at the October 1st work session in terms of the capital needs. Is that what you're referring
Yes,
to?
yes.
Ms. Church? Okay. And
will that include Grace Best in this space? Or are we not yet ready for that?
if we're not, well, I'll be meeting with the team next week to prepare for this. If we are not fully ready to bring that to you then, we will bring it at the November work session. No later than our November work session is the target date.
And can we please put on the October 1st work session for the facilities update? I would like to have a discussion personally to make sure that we are including our programs that are in transitions
Yeah.
and our Homeschool Enrichment Academy that are in currently sitting in Grace Best.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Anything else? For the good of the order, speak now or you go home before 7:30. I don't, everyone wants to go home. All right, well then, the meeting's adjourned.
Get the gavel.
Oh, I get to hit a gavel.
You do. Oh, nice.
I thought it was a hammer.
Whoever got the names on the back of our names,
Yes,
awesome.
we got that right.
Yes.